Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Beyond Max Q. I'm Mollie Jahner, and I am excited to introduce Heath Anderson today. I've actually known him for a couple years now, and he's got such a cool career. And he has really made an impact, I think, in the founder space. He's doing things a little differently, and he's growing and getting recognition, and it's really exciting. So he is the founder and CEO of Rome Federal. And I would love for him to introduce himself a little bit today and tell us a little bit about your whole career because I think that's so cool.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Molly. I appreciate you having me on the show today. I definitely appreciate being here with you and spending a little bit of time to talk a little bit about our journey and kind of my background. So as Molly had said, my name's Heath Anderson, the CEO and founder of Rome Federal. We're a mission-driven IT advisory firm that is supporting primarily public sector innovation, modernization, and cybersecurity within the federal, state, and local space. I'll do a condensed version of my background because it's varied and over many years, but former federal CIO for the United States Capitol Police. Um, Spent most of my career supporting federal law enforcement agencies across the government in two of the branches of government. Former Coast Guard veteran, as well a law enforcement officer at the local and federal level. So I kind of took a leap from the law enforcement side into IT early into my career and have been supporting that mission space ever since from an IT kind of technology perspective. I retired federal government in 2021, shortly after January 6th on Capitol Hill, as the CIO of Capitol Police. And about 5 months later, founded our company, Rome Federal, and started as a one-person consultant and advisory firm at that point in time. So that's kind of it in a nutshell for me.
Yeah, no, I love that. Well, and one person, you started one person, and now where's Rome Federal now today?
Yeah, so I think we're closing in on around 20 people, and mostly all of those are folks that I've either worked with directly, worked for, or alongside in my career, and they're all former executives from federal government that kind of share the same ethos as myself. And so it's a pleasure to work with all of these folks kind of in this new capacity.
Well, and you just got an award, which I want you to talk about because it's super cool. A customer actually nominated you for it, which I think is an important thing because we talk a lot about getting customers and building business, but then it's like, okay, now I have the business, what do I do with it? And I would love for you to talk a little bit about how you're doing that because you really have customers that love you.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, this one kind of caught us totally out of nowhere. We've been a member of the Better Business Bureau since we started the company, and yeah, just last month, I believe it was last month, we were notified that we were nominated for their Torch Award for Ethics and Integrity, which obviously directly aligns to the way that I'm trying to operate our business, particularly around the clients and the mission space that we work in. So that was super cool. To number one, be recognized by a customer that still to this date is unknown. I have no idea who it was that nominated us. Um, but it was somebody that we've interacted with and have provided support to. So that to me is the kind of greatest um, acknowledgement of what we do is one to have an unknown entity provide a nomination for something that is so key and integral into the way that we operate. So yeah, so we're in the process of that now. Where they're going to review all of these submissions, and we should know later this year as far as whether we make the next step is kind of the finalists, and then ultimately they do this all but based on business size. But yeah, super exciting. It's something that as I talk to our team, um, it just resonates. We look to engage in every client engagement with, a focus on integrity, a focus on our ethics and how we do work. Having been career federal employees, that's kind of where this all started. We're an organization founded out of, a desire to deliver. From a passion to deliver services to our customers. The passion to serve has always been there, whether it's been my military career, police department. Most of the folks on our team are involved in, outside activities, mentoring, coaching, advising, participating on boards, and nonprofits, those types of things. So we're a very well rounded group of individuals that I think brings a lot of deep experience to our customers.
So I heard a couple different things there. I would love to kind of just pull the thread. You grew from 1 to 20, and you surrounded yourself with people from your network that you trusted. What does that look like? And as you build a company, would you hire outside your network? Would you start to look as you grow? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's a great question because this is an area that kind of goes back to, I would say this is, been a slow growth, as far as our organization, and that wasn't intentional. Um, I started this out as, kind of that career pivot from federal and looking to still contribute in a different way, right? And I thought that may just be a one person thing, and it could be that until I decided it was time to retire. Over the course of those engagements, I saw that there was a much deeper need for this type of support and what it was that I was doing one on one with my clients. And so I began to have conversations with, folks within my network, folks that I trust, wholeheartedly, that I enjoyed working with, that I knew, kind of shared that same ethos. And that's kind of where it's developed over time as we've expanded into new mission space, serving new clients and customers across the government. That cadre of experienced experts has grown. Certainly will consider to go outside of my own personal network to include the expanded networks of those that are currently on my team.
Yes.
But at the end of the day, it boils down to those relationships, a deep sense of trust, and knowing that what we deliver for our clients is consistently applied across all of our advisors. And that's really what it's all about, is that no matter who you talk to on our team, you're getting the same level of trust, service, and dedication to your mission.
Yeah, that's well said. I think it's really tough to
Thanks.
hire in today's market. There's so many people looking, and it's how do you sift through, and how do you find the right person in a startup? I feel like every hire matters. Like, I mean, it's a huge impact on the business. So that's really good, really good feedback.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, as a small organization, one that's, just getting its footing, or one that's, been around for just coming on 4 years like we are, in just a couple of weeks. Um, I think who you hire is probably one of the most important decisions you're going to make outside of, leading with and delivering services that are pure, completely aligned to you as an individual and as you're building your company.
Well, I mean, and you have such a strong servant leadership piece as a part of your organization. I actually would love for you to talk a little bit about that because you've served in all facets of your career, like you said, and your life. And I think what makes servant leadership, what makes that desire to serve and lead, what does that look like for you, and how does it translate into almost like business? You're growing your business, right? What does that look like?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, for me, it started very early, right? So I joined the military right out of high school. Um, and before that, I was involved in kind of service with our local fire department as a volunteer while I was in high school. So, um, it was kind of an interesting path. I went into the military, got shipped off to the other side of the country, having left California and landed in Massachusetts, and really didn't know anything about the East Coast, didn't know anything about, the people or where I was going or anything like that. So it was an opportunity for me to really just kind of dive into this new opportunity, this new experience that I was going through with the Coast Guard. And from that, as a young adult, I was given a lot of responsibility at 19, 20 years old, to do things that I didn't fathom I would ever do until much later in life. And I think through that, right, you get this sense of, empowerment and the ability to operate independently so early that it becomes ingrained, and you're surrounded by some fantastic mentors that have, been doing it for much longer than you. And that just becomes part of kind of who you are. When I left Coast Guard, where I was doing counter narcotic law enforcement work with the Coast Guard, primarily down in the Caribbean, I left there and went to local police in Virginia, and so that trend kind of continued with that. um, Over the course of, far too many close calls on the job and things like that, I decided, along with my wife, to make a decision to pivot into something that was just a bit safer. Hence my
Just a bit, just a bit safer.
parachuting into technology, uh, but still serving the same, mission space. And yeah, so I've carried that through, my entire career. And I think that has been probably the most important piece of what has led to kind of my success in my federal career, as well as kind of continuing that trend into the business space, is just that very close tie to the mission and, desire to serve, something much bigger than myself.
Yes, that's a great point. I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit on, I'm a founder. I'm just starting something. I don't have this amazing long career in the military. Like maybe if there's you're speaking to some 19 and 20-year-olds. I met a few the other day who were just out of school, they're starting things. What advice do you have for them as they begin to build
Yeah.
their companies, taking from your really great career?
Yeah, well, that's a great question, and I would say there's probably, a few things that I would throw into there. I mean, my first primary advice is, understand yourself and really know your values. If you can build your business and what you're doing to serve your clients or your intended clients around a core set of values, you're going to have a hard time going wrong, right? If you stay true to yourself, then, at the end of the day, what you're trying to do will begin to sell itself, because it's very natural extension of you as a person, right? I would say that is my first piece. A couple of other things that I would throw in there is, know that with anything, there's going to be an immense amount of uncertainty, and you just have to know that, timelines are going to shift, people are going to change, priorities are going to evolve over time. There's going to be a lot of ambiguity that you're going to have to navigate. So surround yourself with people that you can trust and consult throughout that process, so you don't feel like you're on an island by yourself. Um, and also know that this thing it's a long game, right? At the end of the day, you're building reputations, you're building trust in people, and that takes time. This is not overnight success. It's built on people. And so I think all of those kind of combined are, kind of at the core of how we operate and what I expect in anybody that I bring into the team. um, so I would say, even without the service background, without the military, without any of that, if you have those kind of elements to help kind of, be your guiding light, I think it would definitely serve you, in the right capacity moving forward.
That was an amazing answer. And for the audience, this is Heath's first podcast ever. I get the honor of interviewing him, and I feel like he's rocking it. This is great answers. As we kind of like transition towards the end, is there anything that we've missed that you feel like you want to talk through or mention for founders that are in the community?
Um, yeah, I mean, a couple of things. I would say, continue to keep yourself open to learning. Learning is so critical. It's very easy in the pressures of starting a company, in trying to grow a company, in all of the various hats that you're going to wear as a founder and CEO through the course of that, to not prioritize continuous learning, right? And in particular, learning and challenging yourself with, things that maybe counter to your own thinking, right? Reading books. I'm an avid reader. I read a lot of books, and I try to read things that do challenge those perspectives that I might carry on a regular basis, to kind of further shape and develop how we move forward. um but yeah, I think uh staying true to yourself and your core values is huge. I know that there's a lot of opportunity, as you start a company, to kind of go with the flow, right? To chase the shiny object, to do some of those things that, your gut would tell you maybe I shouldn't go that way. Um, but you do because you think it's going to advance your desire to grow the business and things like that. And so I would say, stay true to yourself. We built this company not to chase size or status, or based on just a particular dollar amount. At the end of the day, we built it to serve. Our mindset is, always remain grounded, consistent with our delivery, and very mission focused. And I think that piece what has led some of our clients to be so willing to, either nominate us for certain awards, or to jump at the chance to write letters of recommendation. Those types of things, I mean, come from real connections. They're not just something that's, thrown out there, frivolously. They're based on, human connection. And I would say that that's core to, what we do. And, I would recommend that, at least to some degree, new founders would look at that as well, kind of, on their own growth path.
Yeah, that's well said. Focusing on the foundations and not seeking the other things like revenue and like you said, maybe the exit, and then actually those things end up finding you. It's funny how
Right.
that actually ends up working.
Yeah, yeah. Those other pieces are extremely important, and they need to be part of your planning. No doubt. I definitely have my own, exit strategy, and when the timing is right and all of that, but at the end of the day, I don't want to lose sight of, how we're providing services to our clients across, over the period of time that we're in operation. So yeah, so I think that's kind of how we've gone about it. And while it might not be the exact path for everyone, I would say that there's maybe some nuggets out of there that can be utilized by anyone.
Definitely. No, I love it. Well, and you said you're an avid reader, so that leads into the last question, which is great. What are you currently reading?
Yeah, so I've got a couple. One's kind of an author that I've enjoyed books from, over my career, by Simon Sinek. I'm reading Leaders Eat Last. It's a great kind of reset, I would say, for leadership and what it really means. For me, that's always kind of core to, how I operate, my empowering of the people around me that are on my team. It's putting the team first, right? Kind of goes back to the military way of doing things and how we create a culture of trust and responsibility. So I read a lot of books kind of along those lines, but I also like to mix it in with things like the other book I'm kind of reading right now called Appliance, from an author named J.O. Morgan. That one's more of a speculative fiction novel, and it looks at how technology evolves in society. And this is, I thought, great timing with the current intersection of tech and government, in particular with AI advances and things like that. It really makes you look at the long term kind of consequences of the systems that we're implementing today. And with that being kind of core to my space and where our clients are looking at AI in so many facets of what they do, it's an interesting read for the time right now.
I love that. I love you mixing in some fiction. I think that's always fun. Like there's always like the business books, but then it's like, okay, like what other fun things we're reading? Because I need ideas
Yeah,
from I'm
yeah,
not always
yeah.
just reading business books. So I love that. Well, it is a truly a pleasure to have you here today. And I just think people can learn so much from your story and what you're doing. And if they want to connect with you, is that okay? You know, reaching out on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
Okay, great.
absolutely.
And we can
Yeah,
have all the links.
LinkedIn, our
Great.
website, any way you want to get at us, for sure.
Okay, fantastic. And I'll link to all of that in the video description. And yes, just thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
Well, thank you for having me. It was a pleasure, and I appreciate you taking it easy on me this morning.
There you go.